All right, the war man is in the house. Wayne Allyn Root. Great to be with you today, Friday. Thank God it's Friday, as they always say. I'm your middle-class warrior, relentless freedom fighter, capitalist evangelist, conservative rock star, and all-around badass warrior for God, guns, gold, tax cuts, term limits, Trump, and that big, wonderful, tall wall. Call-in phone number is now a national toll-free number, 844-WAR-NOW-1, 844-WAR-NOW-1, numerically 844-927-6691. You can list us online at 790talknow.com. Just click on the top right, and we're on. It's that simple. You can listen to all the shows you missed on my YouTube channel, War Now Radio. This show is sponsored by Swiss America, the gold standard, the number one precious metals company in America. Contact Swiss America at 800-BUY-COIN, 800-BUY-COIN, or go to SwissAmerica.com. And don't forget, it's IRA time and SEP IRA time. And so when you go buy your IRA, you're going to want it to be in physical gold or silver. You can do that only at Swiss America. Call 800-BUY-COIN and tell them Wayne Root sent you. All right, time for the world-famous Root Rant. But before we get to it, I see a caller is hanging on the line, so we'll go ahead and take it. We got Ronnie on line one. Ronnie, you're on with Wayne Allyn Root. How are you? Oh, Tony. It's Tony.
Yes.
Tony, I probably need contact lenses. I thought it said Ronnie. How are you?
How you doing, Wayne?
The screen's not that close to my face. It looked like Ronnie to me. Tony, it's my Tony, the Tony. How are you, Tony?
Yes, sir. Yes. Listen, have you had any luck contacting your friend who's in the space business?
Oh, Peter Diamandis.
Yes.
Why was I calling him? I can't even remember why I was calling him. What was the reason?
Okay. Because Trump really wants to get NASA moving, and I assume that a lot of private companies will probably be either doing it independently or joining with NASA. And I know Trump's behind this. There's been a lot of press on this. So you had mentioned, when I had mentioned this to you a few weeks ago before you went on your trip, that you were going to contact Peter Diamandis and see what his role is, if he's still involved in that business, and what he's going to do, because Trump wants to send people to the moon.
Yeah,
and
well,
Mars.
and
so
Mars,
forth.
I hope. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Listen, I'm someone who always likes less government spending, except for certain departments. Law enforcement, you got to spend. And I think
Right.
you got to spend on military, and you got to spend on NASA. I'm a huge fan of NASA, and of course, who hated it? Barack Obama. He'd rather spend on welfare and food stamps and disability payments to people who aren't disabled, rather than spend it on motivational and aspirational things like going to the moon and Mars and proving to the world that we are the greatest nation ever blessed by God. I'm someone who believes you have to soar like an eagle in order to inspire people to do well. You need your country to prove this is the greatest country in the world. We could all we could all achieve whatever we want to achieve. How do you do that with NASA?
Yeah, and not only that, the side benefits are enormous. It just injects so much into the economy. It creates jobs, and it's just good all around. It gives us a focus, as opposed to constantly, talking about wiping the terrorists off the face of the earth, which we're doing, which is great. But this is something that's really important, and it gives the younger generation hope as well.
All right. Well, Tony, thank you for the call. Really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And I want to laugh because I've got a commentary out in Sunday's RJ, and it's about Obamacare, but it mentions what kind of morons we elected in Carson City. I know it wasn't me, and I know it wasn't you listening, but boy, did the voters of this state elect morons. Children, little 4-year-olds having temper tantrums, and mommy and daddy are away for the weekend, seeing what they can get away with. The most absurd bills I've ever heard in my entire life, bringing up the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment. That ship sailed 40 years ago. Bringing up this being a sanctuary state. These people are out of their minds. And how about this one? This is in the RJ as we speak right now. Bill to elect the president by popular vote is a popular vote winner is introduced to the assembly. These people that we elected, the Democrats in Nevada, I don't know how this happened, because we're at this Wild West frontier state. We're libertarian, we're conservative. How this happened, I don't know. But the people that got in for the Democratic Party are the weirdest, strangest, most mentally ill, radical Marxists I've ever seen. And they're having the little children with temper tantrums trying to pass national bills in the Nevada Assembly. What does the Nevada Assembly have to do with electing a president by popular vote? That's only something that can be changed. I don't even think Congress could change it, right? It would have to be a constitutional amendment. This has nothing to do with the Nevada Assembly. A state lawmaker on Friday, so it just happened today, introduced a bill to elect the president by the popular vote. Assembly Bill 274 by Assemblyman Nelson Araujo, Democrat, Las Vegas, would enact the agreement among the states to elect the president by national popular vote. The bill would make the electors identify with the president and vice president who win the national popular vote the official presidential electors. The provision of the bill would become effective on the date that states with enough electoral votes to constitute a majority of all the electoral votes adopt the agreement. The bill's been enacted by 11 jurisdictions possessing 165 electoral votes, 61% of the electoral votes necessary to activate it. The debate over how to elect the president emerged again when Donald Trump did not win the popular vote. But by the way, good old, what's the guy's name? Nelson Araujo. He did win the popular vote, but millions of illegals were allowed to vote by Democrat moron thieves and frauds like you. Just ridiculous. These people are all off the rails. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're saying. They don't represent you or me. They've got nothing to do with us. So you know what? If Democrats claim that Trump isn't their president, guess what? These people in the Carson City state legislature are not my state legislator. They've got nothing to do with me. They're the most unhinged wacko psychos I've ever seen in my entire life. You have every right to be a Democrat. You have every right to be a liberal. You don't have a right to be a psycho. These people belong in a rubber room. Absolutely childish with the stupid things. I wish I had a list here. I'm going to need to get someone to compile a list for me of all the incredibly stupid bills that have been proposed up in Carson City. But the two worst ones, by the way, that aren't childish, they're just so liberal, they're Marxist, is everybody who registers at DMV is automatically registered to vote. That's just so every illegal could vote that they haven't even grabbed yet. They haven't grabbed every illegal. They want to make sure they grab every illegal alien to vote. And massive voter fraud is enabled. And the other one, of course, I can't even remember what the other one is. I don't have it in front of me. I had the idea a second ago, and now I forgot what it was. But there are just so many stupid ones. How about that my child can't sit in the front seat till they're 13 years old? My 9-year-old daughter sits in the front seat all the time in my car. Sorry, that's my decision to make. That's not your decision to make. These people are just, they're just control freaks. Control freaks. It's just unbelievable. Oh, I know the other one. Of course, the property tax bill. That you would take the cap off the property tax, and instead of there being a cap of 3%, you would now say the floor is 3% instead of the cap. Will Sandoval allow that without a veto? Will he allow the other one that anyone can register to vote automatically by registering at DMV without a veto? Really? We'll find out whether he has any Republican conservative credibility left in his entire body, or whether we really have just another, seriously deficient Democrat in the governor's house who puts the fraudulent word Republican in front of his name. We're about to find out. Let's take line 2, Mark from Las Vegas. Hey, Mark, how are you?
Good. How are you, Wayne?
I'm doing great. What's on your mind?
Listen, I got in the tail end about an hour ago when you were talking about Wayne Dog Mattis, and I didn't catch all of it. Can you elaborate a little more on that for me?
Yeah.
I'm going to hang up, okay?
Sure. Yeah, a friend of mine.
I'm going to listen to you on the radio.
All
Thanks.
right, great, cool. Thanks, Mark. A friend of mine is an insider in Washington, D.C., and that's all I'm going to say. I won't say another word about it, so he can't be identified. And he sent me an email, and the email says that Donald Trump is allowing Mad Dog Mattis to run the show, and that Mad Dog Mattis is allowing our soldiers to go door to door and to kick butt and to clean out ISIS, to kill them all, to wipe them out. And they're not talking about this because they don't want the media to be able to, they don't want nationwide protests and the media to be screaming about it, all the liberal wackos to be screaming about it. We're cleaning ISIS out. There's no reason to say a word. We're going to announce it when it's all done. That's when it'll be announced. Here's the actual letter. From what I hear, Mad Dog Mattis is cleaning city by city and getting ISIS killed and restoring the cities, but Trump will not discuss it till it's done, because if the press knew, they would just report bad news. But yes, our men are on the ground going inside each city, wiping ISIS off the face of the earth. Wait about 60 more days, and remember this email, Wayne. So that comes from a good friend of mine, very well connected, and an insider in Washington, D.C. All right, time for a very quick break to give some time to our sponsors, the wonderful people who make this show possible, who are all personally approved by me and personally endorsed by me. You don't get on this show till you bypass Wayne Root. You have to sit in front of me. You have to be interviewed by me. I have to believe your product is great, best of its kind. I have to believe it's good for my listeners. And I have to believe that I'm willing to endorse it, or you don't get on my show. So these are all handpicked by me, Wayne Root, and they're all great products. So make sure you listen. Make sure you partake. At 4:20, when we get back, we'll have Charles Campisi, author of Blue on Blue, an insider story of good cops catching bad cops. I love cop stories. Charles Campisi, author and New York City police officer, I believe a captain for about 30 years. We'll find out all of it when we get back. Wayne Allyn, War Now. All right, Wayne Allyn, welcome back. This show definitely doesn't suck. Matter of fact, it's the hottest show, number one show, talk political show in Las Vegas and Palm Springs, and one of the hottest shows, if not the hottest show in the country. And we are moving to national syndication next month. So you'll be hearing Wayne Root all over the country. Liberal brains will be exploding, and liberal asses will get kicked all over this country. We've got a guest on the line now, Charles Campisi, author of Blue on Blue, an insider story of good cops catching bad cops. I want to tell you what the Wall Street Journal says about his book, a lively memoir. Mr. Campisi, a Brooklyn kid who had one of the longest careers in New York Police Department history, has seen it all and tells his cop stories with verb, intriguing detail, and a generous heart. And then I want to give you the official bio. Charles Campisi, chief of the New York Police Department's Internal Affairs Bureau from 96 to 2014. And my math is right. That's 18 years serving that capacity, longer than anyone in history. He developed model strategies for investigating corruption, which have been adopted by law enforcement agencies across the U.S. and abroad. Currently a senior VP at the private investigation firm Cyber Diligence. He's a graduate of the FBI National Academy, the Columbia University Police Management Institute, Harvard's John F. Kennedy School of Government, and SUNY's John Jay College of Criminal Justice, where he's now completing his doctorate. He grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Hello, Charles Campisi. You're on with Wayne Allyn. How are you?
Wayne, I'm doing very well. How are you?
Good. I'm a son of a Brooklyn butcher named David Root from Brownsville, by the way, Pitkin Avenue in Brownsville. And I'm a Columbia University boy, and my daughter graduated Harvard. So it sounds like you and I have a few things in common, okay?
Yes, we do. And one of my first posts was in Ocean Hill, Brownsville, right on Pitkin Avenue.
Yeah, that is not a good neighborhood.
Not any longer, but at one time it was.
Yes, when my dad was there, it wasn't horrible, although you still could get your ass kicked once in a while. But you didn't get killed. You didn't get killed and lose your life over over $1. So those things only happen today. So Charles Campisi, tell me all about your career. Look, I'm a big cop lover, and a lot of cops don't like internal affairs. You became one of the great internal affairs cops of all time in New York City. And first of all, how did it come about? You first started out as a regular old-fashioned cop. You didn't begin your career in internal affairs, right?
Right, that's correct. I spent 41 years with the New York City Police Department, 21 of which, the last 21, with the Internal Affairs Bureau, and the last 18 as the Chief of Internal Affairs. I want to start off by saying no one wants to be in Internal Affairs. It's a position in New York where you're drafted or selected to serve there. Most people serve 2 years and move on to other assignments, but for some reason or another, I kind of was left there for almost 21 years.
Well, you were probably very good at it and rose to become chief. So when someone's that good, they can't afford to let them go, obviously, clearly.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you to say.
So what were some of these? I'm interested because when I read the reviews about your book, the book is called Blue on Blue, an insider story of good cops catching bad cops. What were some of the more high-profile stories of cops that you caught, who were bad, who were on the take, who were, moved over to the other side?
Well, I want to start off by saying the overwhelming majority of cops, not only in New York City but around the country, good, honest, hardworking men and women doing a very difficult job. but there's a small number, a small percentage, that steals the headlines away from the good cops. So I was involved in cases, the torture of Mr. Abner Louima, which occurred in a precinct station house, where officers took a broomstick and sexually assaulted Mr. Louima. I was involved in the Amadou Diallo shooting, an innocent man shot at 41 times and killed, an unarmed man, and killed on the streets of New York. I was involved in the Cannibal Cop case, where a police officer, he went online and was looking to kidnap, kill, cook, and consume young women. So those are the more highlighted cases, but the book is full of different cases that we were involved in where cops went over the line. May have been good cops to start with, but somehow or another turned out to be very bad cops.
Now, there is different levels of cops going over the line, right? I mean, I come from a family that's always loved the police. My uncle Alvin Root was I'm a Jewish kid, and my uncle was a Jewish police detective in Brooklyn. And my next door neighbor was like my godfather. He was like my second father growing up, and he was a cop outside in the neighborhood of Yankee Stadium. And so I love cops, but I think they just under such incredible pressure and such a tough job, a pressure cooker with such life and death decisions, that it's easy to, kind of cross the line sometimes and do something that's not 100% by the book or legal. That's different than being a criminal or being on the take. I'm saying they sometimes make decisions in the heat of the moment, maybe that somebody raped someone really hurt someone, and they decide to teach them a lesson, and they beat the living crap out of them, and you're not supposed to do that. Sometimes I call that just suffering from PTSD and a tough job versus a real criminal. I assume you see the line there, and you must have really dealt with the bad ones who became criminals themselves. Slightly different than a cop who maybe is a little bit too rough, no?
Well, I agree with you. There is a big distinction between a cop who makes a mistake and a cop who becomes a criminal in a blue uniform. And people make mistakes. We're all human. We're all subject to the same temptations, but some people take that a lot of steps further than a single mistake or an honest mistake. They do things that are out and out criminal.
And so I read in all these reviews, everybody says wonderful things about you, including two of the great police commissioners in New York City, Ray Kelly, longest serving commissioner of the NYPD, and Howard Safir, the 39th commissioner of the NYPD. They both seem to love you, and they both say that you develop model strategies for investigating corruption that were adopted all over the country by other police organizations. Give us an idea of what you came up with. What was your creativity that's been adopted all over the country for use by other police agencies?
Well, see, most police departments have internal affairs investigations, and theirs are almost entirely reactive. Someone makes a complaint, and they put their resources to try to see if that complaint is true or not. In the NYPD, we became very proactive. We started to look for the problems before they became the headlines. So we did a lot of things where we tested our officers in a number of ways. We drug screened our officers. We tested them to see if they were on drugs, if they were using drugs, in a variety of different circumstances. We integrity tested them, putting them in situations where temptation was there, but they had the ability to do the job the way it's supposed to be done. We also talked to a lot of people, citizens, community members, criminals, and we asked them, who are the corrupt, who are the brutal cops in your neighborhood, where you work, where you live? And we wanted to get out in front of these cases to find out if we had problems. We wanted to know about it, and we wanted to stop it before it became a bigger problem.
So I think back, speaking of really bad cops, ones who have crossed the line and gone to the bad side, I think back to movies like Serpico or the movie with Denzel Washington, American Gangster, I believe it was called, where it turned out almost the entire narcotics bureau of New York City was on the take. Every one of them was taking money from drug dealers. How did you guys clean all that up? How does things change so much?
That's the late 1960s, early 1970s,
Correct.
Where Serpico's movie is based and his story is based. And I have to say, unfortunately, most of what you saw in that movie was true. There were entire units were systemically corrupt from the top down. And we put in a lot of measures back in 1973 to try to stop that type of systemic corruption. Unfortunately, we see it today in little pockets around the country. Just last week, 7 Baltimore police officers were arrested for conspiracy and for stealing. We had the same scenario in New York. You found it in Boston, Philadelphia, L.A., Houston. You found it around the country. But I'm very happy to say a lot of the things we put into place, like the integrity testing, like removing officers who have drug issues, interviewing people who had information and trying to find out where the corrupt officers were, has almost eliminated systemic corruption, especially in the NYPD. But there's another type of corruption because corruption mutates, and that's opportunistic corruption, where officers take advantage of situations that present themselves anytime they might be out on the street, anytime they might be on patrol. So our integrity testing, our proactive measures kind of put a crimp in that. Now, I don't think you're going to ever be able to stop corruption in a big city police department, mainly because there's too many people. 50,000 members of the New York City Police Department, 37,000 of them are police officers. There's got to be somebody who got by our very strenuous recruitment and retention policies that got in and maybe should not have been there in the first place. That small number, even if it's 0.5%, can be 200, 300 officers that you have to be concerned about.
Well, that's why we do need internal affairs, even though a lot of cops don't like internal affairs. Nobody actually loves internal affairs, says, gee, I love that office because they're going after bad cops, and it hurts to do that. No one wants to put a cop in prison. No one. And I'm sure, Charles, you didn't either.
No, and when something like that happens, that means we failed. Somehow or another, we failed. We have an officer that we weren't able to convince to be truthful and honest, an officer that perhaps we should not have hired. So whenever we arrest a police officer, there's failure, not only on the individual's part, but on the agency's part. We failed that person. But that's one of the reasons why I wanted to write this book, because in the movies, in television, you always see the internal affairs officers portrayed as the bad cops. They're trying to hurt good cops who are only trying to do their job. And that is not true. The good cops never have to worry about internal affairs. It's only the bad cops.
All right, Charles Campisi's a good guy, one of the good guys now. Now I assume retired from NYPD?
Yes, that's correct.
41 years, did you say?
Yes, 41 years in the NYPD.
How many cops have ever been 41 years in the NYPD?
Not too many. When I left, I was one of the longest serving.
All right. Well, congratulations, and good to know you, Charles. You're a good guy. Great to have you on the show. Where could people find your book, Blue on Blue?
Well, it's in all the brick-and-mortar type stores, but also it's online at Amazon and Barnes & Nobles and all the normal places where you'd get a book. It's out. It's been moving fairly well, and it's very topical, especially in light of some of the things that are happening around the country.
All right, Blue on Blue, an insider story of good cops catching bad cops. We're with the author, Charles Campisi. Thank you, Charles. God bless you.
Thank you, Wayne. It's a pleasure being with you.
All right, Wayne Allyn, War Now. When we return, your calls, toll-free, 844-WAR Now 1, 844-WAR Now 1, 844-927-6691. This is War. Hey, everyone. Wayne Allyn, welcome back. We had a little computer freeze. That's why you didn't hear the music and the normal, intro identification, station ID and music and all that. But I'm back on again, and good to hear from you. My call-in number is 844-927-6691, 844 toll-free 927-6691, otherwise known as 844-WAR Now 1. A little easier to remember in the car, 844-WAR Now 1. But when you're actually dialing, you like to hear 844-927-6691. All right, so I wanted to talk to you about Obamacare and the lessons learned in the state of Nevada. And I wrote a column for the RJ coming out this Sunday. And one of the advantages of listening to this show is I read them to you in advance. You don't have to wait for the RJ on Sunday or get the RJ. You get it right here. Right here at Root for America and War Now and all the above. That's my website, rootforamerica.com. You find all of my commentaries that are going to be in the RJ on this show and at Root for America. Obamacare, the lesson of Nevada. So I hope we can get Governor Brian Sandoval to listen to this one. His head will explode just like liberals. And he needs to hear it. And all the Republicans who voted for tax increases need to hear it. I have an important message for President Trump and the GOP Congress. Study the lesson of the Nevada GOP. Obamacare is a vampire, a werewolf. You don't compromise with a vicious killer like that. You either kill it or it kills you. See the news about the 1.3% GDP in the first quarter? It's getting worse. No one has any money. There's nothing out there. It's a vast wasteland. Obamacare has sucked the very life out of the U.S. economy. It has sucked consumers dry. There is no compromising. The twin disasters of Obamacare taxes and the Obamacare price increases are murdering the middle class. That was my book from 2 years ago, The Murder of the Middle Class. They both have to go now, the taxes of Obamacare and the price increases, or the economy will continue to decline or collapse. And the lesson here is don't compromise. Don't moderate. Don't play around the edges. Either you go the full Monty or you lose, period. You can't be partly pregnant. As soon as Republicans try to be Democratic light, they lose. That's the lesson of the Nevada GOP. In 2014, Nevada Republicans campaigned on the foundation of smaller government and lower taxes, and that message produced the greatest GOP result in modern Nevada history. Actually, in history, period. The GOP controlled every lever of Nevada government, every constitutional office, governor, lieutenant governor, treasurer, controller. They controlled them all. Secretary of State, and they controlled the state assembly. They controlled the state senate. First time since I think it was 1923. And then our Republican governor and GOP legislature handed us the largest tax increase in history. They even said it was for the kids, quote unquote, for the kids, just like Democrats always do. But it's never for the kids. It's for teachers' unions and pensions for those teachers. The kids never get a thing. And the result of raising taxes by Republicans? Disaster. The same GOP that swept every office and every level of government in 2014 lost everything in 2016. Heck of a job, Brownie. Remember when Bush told his guy, whose last name was Brown, who was the head of FEMA, what a great job he was doing in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina? Heck of a job, Brownie, he said. That was the dumbest thing that ever came out of Bush's mouth, and boy, did he come to regret it. Because Brownie did a horrible job and messed up the recovery in New Orleans. And people blame Bush because he thought he was doing a great job. Democrats now control everything in Nevada. And they are busy up in Carson City proposing the most radical basket of out-of-touch, insane crap in history. They're so far left, they're touching Karl Marx. They're out of touch with reality. The ERA, that failed 40 years ago. Sanctuary state, wow. What else can the little children dream up while mommy and daddy are away? Reagan won in 2 landslides by being an unapologetic conservative, but wishy-washy moderates like Gerald Ford, Bob Dole, John McCain, and Mitt Romney all lost. Meanwhile, Trump won while sticking to his guns and supposedly offending everyone. He didn't listen to the media. He didn't listen to liberals. He didn't water down what he believed in. He didn't play it safe. He went the full Monty. He was a gunslinger and riverboat gambler. So my advice to President Trump regarding Obamacare is simple. Be Trump-like, not Democrat-light. Don't listen to lobbyists, consultants, pollsters, liberals, the media, or establishment Republicans, because none of them knows anything. Or they'd be president, not you. Here's the truth about Obamacare, Donald. It's a disaster. It's bankrupting the people. It's already bankrupted a majority of Obamacare exchanges, even in liberal Hawaii and Vermont. It will soon bust the entire budget of the United States of America if left in place. So don't fool around the edges. Don't worry about Democrats and what they say. They didn't vote for you, and they never will. You can never make a Democrat happy, Donald Trump. Worry about 30 million small businessmen and women. Almost all of them voted for you. Obamacare has devastated their businesses. Worry about middle-class voters in Ohio, Michigan, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. They elected you. They desperately need your help. Obamacare has wrecked their lives. Treat Obamacare the same way you treated your presidential campaign. Be bold. Be a gunslinger and riverboat gambler. Do what you promised. Kill Obamacare. That's what got you elected. Gut it, rip it to shreds, stab it in the heart with a wooden stake like a vampire. But if you choose to play it safe and just water it down, you will lose the greatest opportunity in history for Republicans to dominate national politics and change Washington, D.C. forever. Don't play it safe. Don't moderate. Be bold. Go for it, or you'll wind up neutered like the Nevada GOP. That's my commentary in Sunday's RJ. When we get back, more of your calls. 844-WAR Now 1. Toll free, 844-WAR Now 1. I'm Wayne Allyn. The battle's just begun, but we're going to win this war. We'll be right back. All right, Wayne Allyn, born free. How about you? I'd like to be born free. I think with Donald Trump, we have been freed. I don't think I was free for the last 8 years under Barack Obama, but I feel reborn right now with President Donald Trump. We got a great caller on the line because I'm on his show. He's got one of the hottest overnight shows in this country ever. His name is Captain Matt Bruce, and it emanates out of Tampa Bay, Florida. And I'm on there every Wednesday night at about 11 o'clock Vegas time, 11 p.m. Vegas time, which would be about 2 o'clock in the morning where he is. He is a late-night owl. I can't believe he's up right now. But Matt Bruce is on the line. Hey, Matt, how are you?
Not bad. Listen, I was doing some show prep, and I was putting together some things that we had today. We had a conference call with House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy and the Health and Human Secretary, Dr. Tom Price, so I'm putting together some of that. That's why I'm sitting here in my console doing this. But I just wanted to comment. You know, I sit right here across the bay, look out the window, and bam, there's CENTCOM. And, you know, there's normal activity that goes on. But in response to what you're talking about, and remember, I have a little inside information myself because of my son and what he does, career officer, colonel with the Marine Corps, somewhere at an undisclosed location, and I'll just leave it at that. But I've been watching the transport planes going up, the big ones. Flight after flight after flight after flight after flight, all week long, all day, all night. What's that tell you?
It tells me that my inside source in Washington is correct. And we're going to kick some ass in those bad places where ISIS has got control, and we're trying to take it back.
Well, you're absolutely right. And the fact of the matter is that we are going to and by the way, Vice President Pence probably had the best quote last night. He talked about destroying ISIS, not capturing, not patting them on the back, not anything else, destroying ISIS. And the only way you destroy ISIS is to kill them. But we're also doing some other things. The big planes, the B-52s, the B-2s, the B-1s, have repositioned themselves to where they are going to be very much in the flow of things. You want to talk about shock and awe? Guys on the television set over the next week or 10 days.
Yeah, well, that's what my buddy's talking about. He said 60 days from now, remember this email. Remember I told you we are wiping ISIS out. Donald Trump is taking the handcuffs off our men and women, and we aren't running a military based on lawyers anymore. We got to do what we got to do. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that refreshing?
Isn't it wonderful? It's absolutely flat out positively amazing. About time. We should have done it 8 years ago, my friend. But listen, I've been having a good time listening to you, and I enjoy what you've been talking about today because that's right up my alley, and I talk about that stuff all the time.
Well, I'm proud that you're listening all the way in Tampa Bay, Florida. It's the Wayne Allyn Show, and you know we're going national next month, so you and I both have very successful shows. Matt's show. Tell everyone where they can find your show and when it's on.
Well, it's on from 2 a.m. Eastern Time to 6 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, and then Saturdays we do our original 3-hour show that's been on for 17 years from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. live, and then our stations pick it up and play it all weekend long, that 3-hour version. But during the week, everything emanates out of our Salem Media flagship station, AM 860, The Answer, here in Tampa, Florida. And to find out more about me, they can go to the Captain's America, thirdwatch.com website, and boom, you're there.
All right, good. I'd love you to call in more often to talk about military issues because that's an area where I'm a little bit weak. I'm a money guy. I'm an economics guy. I could talk all day long about any issue involving small business and taxes and government spending and debt and how you get companies prosperous again, how you get the economy going again. But you're more of a military expert and also a retired, I believe, fire captain. Is that not correct?
Right, from the New York, actually, I was a New York State fire instructor that found himself at the World Trade Center on September 11th.
So real hero type is Matt Bruce with a hero son, and I love being on a show on Wednesday nights, and I'm proud you're listening to my show, and thrilled that you thought to call in. So thank you, Matt Bruce. Really appreciate it.
Anytime you want me, I'm available, sir.
All right, Captain Matt Bruce, thank you. Wayne Allyn Root, WAR Now. We need another ad. We're going straight through to the end of the hour. Good. Well, let's talk about Jeff Sessions then. I want to talk about Jeff. Attorney General Jeff Sessions has asked all the remaining Obama-appointed U.S. attorneys to resign. And I believe there's 46 of them. There we go, 46. In a move that will likely provoke further media and pundit fury. Despite it being a routine act that is concurrent with every change in every administration, Attorney General Jeff Sessions has asked all remaining Obama-appointed U.S. attorneys for their resignation. Sarah Flores, Director of Public Affairs of the Department of Justice, released the following statement. The Attorney General has now asked the remaining 46 presidentially appointed U.S. attorneys to tender their resignations in order to ensure a uniform transition. I'm just surprised he waited till now to do it. Why shouldn't this happen on the very first day? Today's decision, long overdue, according to many, comes less than 2 months after then-President-elect Trump said on January 18th he would allow U.S. attorneys appointed by Obama to remain in their roles for the time being. I knew that was just a ridiculous, naive decision. I hate to ever call Donald Trump naive, but the reality is you can't leave any of Obama's appointees in important positions. They're terrible, terrible people. They hate America like Obama does. They don't believe in anything we believe in. They don't believe in capitalism. They don't believe in the military. They don't believe in the police. These are all the wrong people. Obama would not have appointed them if any of them was a patriot, ever, ever. So you got to get rid of them all. And what are they doing? They're destroying Trump's presidency, or trying to, by being little rat finks. All these Obama appointees are ratting out Trump, and they're leaking things and leaking information and wiretaps. But in any case, before the announcement, officials in several U.S. attorneys' office told Huffington Post they'd received no guidance from the incoming administration on whether they were expected to resign when Trump became president. See, they expected to be told to resign instantaneously. Currently serving U.S. attorneys and U.S. marshals were informed today they were able to stay in place after January 20th, while the process for identifying and confirming successors is further determined. That's what they said at the time. But as a reminder, it is standard practice for a new president to appoint his own U.S. attorneys who are political appointees. In retrospect, this decision perhaps should have been taken earlier, you think? Earlier, in the context of the constant pushback Trump's immigration EO, both original and revised, has received by various Obama-appointed attorneys in the past month. The bottom line, however, is that what Sessions has done is considered standard operating procedure, and if anything, Trump was late in firing all of them or asking them to resign. So Trump's immigration executive order, that's what they mean by immigration EO, executive order, received a very poor response, of course, from all of the U.S. attorneys appointed by Obama. They're all creeps, every one of them. They're creeps. And they believe in flooding the nation, obviously, with illegals. They believe that's okay. They believe that bringing Muslims in from other countries, many of whom might harbor hatred towards the United States, some of whom might be terrorists and kill American citizens, all of whom want welfare and food stamps, free education and free medical care, they think that's just wonderful. Just wonderful. So it's time to clean house and get rid of these people. We've got Gary on the line, line 2. Gary, you're on with WAR.
There he is, Fabio.
There he is. What's up, Gary?
You know, I'm half Italian and half a Swede, but how do I get the name Gary? I mean, your parents gave you your middle initial because they like, what do you call it, Alan Shepard.
Yes, good memory. Good memory. Very good memory. Gary, I got to ask you something. Gary, at the dinner table, it must have been very confusing which meatballs your parents made, half Italian, half Swedish. Which meatball did they make?
Good one. That's a good one. I wasn't expecting that. You called me off guard. No, my mom liked Gary Kugler. And we had 6 kids, and my father was so hardworking. He was like, I don't care. I'm so hardworking. We have so many bills. You want to name him Gary, name him Gary. But I'm not Irish, and I'm not Jewish. I mean, I got part Jewish in me, my great-grandfather, or my grandfather. Anyway, I called up the governor's office, and I left a message with his spokeswoman there, Mary, and it's so confusing. They're trying to give me an email, and her name is Mary Saint, then it's Mary Emerson, and then it's all this, the longest email I ever heard of in my life. So I just went straight to left a message. I just want to know why Democrats and liberals can't be drug tested in this state first before they propose all this nonsense. Can't we do something? Can we get on the radio with you or Kevin Wall or something?
They'll
what
never.
Are they running from?
They will never appear on the radio. Never, and neither will Governor Sandoval, for that matter. The Republican governor, who in many ways is just, a wishy-washy Democrat, will not appear on the radio with either of us either, because they don't want you to know what they really stand for and what they're really voting for. How can you be a Republican and pass the biggest tax increase in the history of the state, Gary? It's not possible.
No, he's going to go into private. He's going to go into private sector after this. He knows that. He just doesn't want anyone to know. He doesn't care about his political future. It has to be that way. There's no other explanation. He doesn't care. So I'll let it go at that. And you're a good man, and it's a great show. And this Joy Villa, I really enjoyed listening to her. You're absolutely right.
She was fabulous.
What a refreshing voice.
Fabulous.
She was great. She was tremendous.
She was. All right. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate the call. And to answer Gary's question real quick, because we're headed to news break, the reality is that all these politicians, it isn't that they don't care and that they're headed off to private practice or whatever. It's not that they don't care. It's that if you're like me and you want to cut government, there's no job waiting for you when your career as a governor is over. But if you add to government and you spend more and you add new agencies and you invest with taxpayer money and all kinds of nonsense that will do nothing but lose money, like green energy, you have a huge lobbyist job waiting for millions of dollars a year. You have a huge law firm partnership waiting. You have a huge job with an environmental company waiting. This is the way that politicians get rich when their careers are over. They purposely spend your money and waste your money and steal your money. Wayne Allyn, WAR Now. We'll see you in second after the news. All right, Wayne Allyn, good for everything. All around root, jack of all root causes. And I'm in with you today on Friday, last day of this wonderful week, my first week back since my Asian tour. 6 cities, 5 countries, 9 speeches over 14 days throughout Asia. What a great time I had. This is my first week back. And Friday's the last day, and thank God for Friday. I love my weekends, and I'm glad to be with you on Friday. Lots of great things happening in the news. First of all, I want to read you a couple of letters I got from listeners. Always wonderful to hear from you. My email is wayneroot@gmail.com, wayneroot@gmail.com. Here's one from Bobby. Hi, Wayne. Love you on the radio. Love your columns in the RJ. I was an official observer at the Boulevard Mall polling place for the Republican Party in 2012, and what you may not know is that if a person insists they have registered to vote, but the polling place has no record of their registration to vote, the person could just sign an affidavit saying that they had registered. They can then vote. This happened right before my eyes. This woman essentially could go from voting place to voting place to voting place and claim that she was registered when she wasn't. Thank you for all you're doing, Bobby. There's so much voter fraud. It is ridiculous, and Democrats know it. They're not delusional. They're liars. They know what's going on. It's the only chance they have to win elections because all decent, common-sense people think like me and Donald Trump and all of you. So they know they can only win elections by getting, that small percentage of people in America that is not decent, that has bad intentions, that hates America, that hates capitalism, that hates Judeo-Christian values, that thinks it's great that women get abortions, pigs that march in feminist rallies, just disgusting. They're not women, they're pigs. And then they put them together with tons of illegals and tons of fraudulent voting, and voila, that's how you win an election now and then. Here's another great letter from a friend of mine who is a real insider in Washington, D.C. Consumer confidence the highest in a decade. Coincidence? Illegals down 40% in February crossing the border. Coincidence? Here's a great one. In November, if you were an illegal and you wanted to come to America, the cost was $3,000. Now, $8,000. Think about that. MAGA, making America great again. Donald Trump. You're Mexican, you want to come illegally? $8,000 now instead of $3,000. Love it. Fantastic. Forget about the Dow at record highs. If this all happened under Obama, there would be a parade. But under Trump, just try finding this on the evening news. Even the unemployment rate is the lowest in 10 years, even though it's nonsense. It's not anywhere near 4.7%. Total complete BS. The reality is you can't find it on the news. And then the same DC Insider sent me a second email. Also, from what I hear, now this is important, Mad Dog Mattis is cleaning city by city and killing ISIS and restoring cities. But Donald Trump will not discuss the job until it's done, so the media cannot say anything. If the media knew about it, they would say terrible things about it. But yes, our men on the ground are going door to door inside each city and wiping ISIS off the face of the earth. They got a green light from Donald Trump. Wait about 60 more days and remember this email I told you first. So Donald has given the green light for men to be men again and Marines to be Marines again and go out and kill all these enemies without lawyers deciding what shot you could take. That's my Donald Trump. All right. Steve is on the line. Let me give you the caller number, first of all. 844-WAR-NOW-1. 844-WAR-NOW-1, which is a toll-free number anywhere in the United States. Numerically, it's 844-927-6691. We welcome your calls, and I'm taking them now. You're on the clock. 844-WAR-NOW-1. We got a great show today. First of all, do you remember the gal named Joy Villa? She's a beautiful gal whose music sales skyrocketed. She's a singer. And after she wore a pro-Trump dress at the 59th Annual Grammy Awards, her sales skyrocketed. She had the guts to say she loves Trump. And her and the designer, by the way, both love Trump. She's on this show at 3:20. At 4:20, we have author Charles Campisi, the author of Blue on Blue, an insider story of good cops catching bad cops after a lifetime in New York City of going after bad cops as a cop. He's on the show. And at 5:20, we've got a Brian Crabtree on to talk about the wiretap debate, thanks to WikiLeaks. He is an expert on these kind of high-tech wiretap situations. So lots of great guests on the show today. Line one, we've got Steve. Steve, you're on with WAR. How are you?
Hey, Wayne. How you doing? And how was Asia?
Asia was fantastic. A real eye-opening experience. A lot of great people in the world outside of America. A lot of great countries outside of America who all want to be America. You know, they all want to be us. So it was fantastic.
Over Japan, anything America, they love it. Yeah.
Right.
So you're going to have Joey Villa on the show. You know, I did a little looking into her. Find out from her if she's really a Scientologist.
Really? Is she a Scientologist?
Yeah, I know. I said the same thing. Well, when I saw them, I play music, you know, and I'm always interested in, you know, finding out different people that, you know, are doing good. And when I looked into her, yeah, she's a Scientologist, which I can't get. I mean, to me, I think that's the biggest joke. I have a lot of friends in Hollywood out there that, you know, it's a big tax write-off to them. But, you know, to each their own. But I just can't understand how somebody could worship science fiction writer L. Ron Hubbard.
Well, you got to explain.
Anyway,
wait. You got to explain something before you get to your main topic. Science, joining Scientology is a tax write-off. Now you got me interested. How is it a tax write? How is it a tax write-off? And what do you get to write off?
Well, from what I understand, I know a couple different producers out in Hollywood. They swear by it. That and the something Steinberg Association.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the year, when people need to write off things to balance their books, these guys all put their money into a couple things, and they get their write-off. And especially that Steinberg, what is it, Arnold Steinberg Association? It's if you want, let's say you wanted to do a pilot for a TV show, they can finance it through that. And then the people that invest in it, almost like a Kickstarter program. Like a Kickstarter, you know, when you're trying to raise money for something to do an independent film or whatnot.
Yeah, I know Kickstarter.
Same thing.
Yeah.
But the Scientology thing is so screwed up because once you buy into that, they make you sign a contract for 1 million years. And they don't believe that people die. They like say that you passed. Well, you're not really dead. You might be in that dog now. You might be in an animal. I mean, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I'm a Christian. You know, I believe in God. I believe in the Holy Trinity, the whole 9 yards. I don't understand how people can believe in a cartoon which also brings me to like Louis Farrakhan. I hear on the radio today talking about how he got beamed up by Muhammad to a spaceship that was a planet. I'm thinking, what does this guy think? He's funkadelic? I mean, you know, I don't get it, man. There's a lot of weird things happening, Wayne.
Yeah, but see, I don't know anything about Scientology and tax deductions, but if all these Hollywood big shots, I find they're all lying liberal hypocrites. And, of course, they all love black people except their children go to only white schools, and they all love brown-skinned Mexican people except the only Mexicans they've ever seen in their lives near their mansions while they're driving through the barrios in a limo or on a private jet and doing their lawns and nannying their children and cleaning their toilet bowls. Total hypocrites. So it would make sense to me when you hear about so many smart people joining Scientology. It's just a tax scam. If you could,
it is a scam. That's what I'm saying. It's one of the biggest. It's worse than Amway.
Well, Amway's not a scam. I'm telling you, Amway's no scam. Amway's not a scam. I'm not in it, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, that was a multi-level, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. No, but I have a lot of friends who do MLM, not necessarily Amway. I haven't been an Amway person in a long time, but I have a lot of friends who join MLM organizations, and it's not a scam. 99% of all people fail, but if you're one of the ones who works hard at it and as a good people person, good at relationships, I have one friend who makes $18 million a year at MLM. So,
I don't doubt it. Don't you remember the phone that you could, a video phone?
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Well, there's a lot of them with vitamins and all kinds of things. They're good vitamins. They charge you a lot of money.
If you have a product, Wayne.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, if you're pushing a decent product, you can try to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole Scientology thing, yeah, look into that a little bit. As a matter of fact, they just opened a new Scientology temple out here in Las Vegas. I was going to go in there and act like I was interested just to get more information. I just think it's a big occult.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with you. I just think it would be perfect. It would make perfect sense if the reality is everyone in Hollywood joins it because they all tell you how liberal they are and how they love paying taxes and they want more taxes and they vote for the Obamas and the Hillarys and then they use it as a big tax dodge. That would be very interesting. That would explain everything. Makes sense.
Well, it does make sense. I know. All right, I got to go.
Thanks, Steve.
I'll be talking to you.
All right.
Thanks, Wayne.
All right, we're headed to ad break. Steve has learned, I want to train all of you that when you hear the music come up, it's time to go bye-bye and meet our wonderful sponsors. And when we come back, it's time for Joy Villa. I don't know if it's Villa or Villa. I'll find out when she comes on. But she's a beautiful singer who wore a dress saying "Make America Great Again" on the front, and on the back it said Trump. To the Grammys. Can you imagine the guts it takes to do that? And many people rewarded her and bought her music, and it skyrocketed to number one. And many people, I'm sure, cursed her. I'm sure she had death threats. I know I get them whenever I go on liberal shows like Bill Maher. So I'm sure she had death threats. Let's bring her on to find out all about it right when we get back. Don't go anywhere. Joy Villa coming up next. All right, Wayne Allyn Root, WAR Now. And we've got Joy Villa. I have to find out if that's the right pronunciation. Joy Villa on the line with us. She is the singer who wore a very controversial message on her dress at the 59th Annual Grammy Awards. On the front, it said MAGA, Make America Great Again. On the back, it said Trump in sparkly lettering. And I'm sure she took a lot of heat for it. I'm also sure it was a great move because she had record sales flung to, I think she went to number one, I believe, as a result of that. Let's see. She was number 7 on the iTunes top album chart and jumped to the top, number 1 of Amazon's top digital paid albums. So we've got her on the line. We want to talk to her a little bit. Hey, Joy, you're on with WAR. Wayne Allyn Root, how are you?
Hi. Yes.
Joy, are you there?
Great here. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Joy, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me? I'm here.
She's not there, Charlie?
Can you
Well,
hear me?
get her back on the line again. What can we do?
Am I on mute?
Here we go. There you are.
I'm here.
All right. We didn't hear you. I don't know why we didn't hear you, but you're there. So, Joy, you're on with Wayne Allyn Root. How are you?
Hi, Wayne on the Root. This is Joy. I'm so happy to be here. And yes, actually, I went to number 1 on iTunes, by the way.
Well, that's fabulous.
Number 1 on iTunes and Amazon. It was incredible. And number 12 on the Billboard charts hits and number one in rock and alternative. I beat out some of my favorite bands, Red Hot Chili Peppers and Metallica.
Oh yeah. Are you? Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Who's your album producer? Who is the company that's behind you?
Barry Gledden produced the album. He is a producer in the UK. I went to London to get it done a couple years ago, and then it's self-distributed through cdbaby.com.
Oh, self-distributed. So you made some good money.
Right.
You got to keep the money that came in,
Independent.
huh? I like it.
That's right.
So I guess
Yeah,
the question would be, you're on a friendly station here. I'm a Trump man. I was the first guy in the country, by the way, the first national commentator to come out for Trump. But I guess the question would be, were you being a little bit cynical, or do you really like Donald Trump? Was this a publicity stunt, or do you really like Donald Trump? That's the million-dollar question I have for you.
Is that really still a question?
Yeah, I want to know. I want, because I'm sure you're saying you like Trump, but I mean, did you really like Trump, and why do you like Trump? And my audience wants to know.
I am, I'm 100% a Trump supporter, just like I said before. And, going to the March for Trump event was really special for me. I got no money for that, by the way. I did that. I volunteered. That was in D.C. just last weekend. And it's something that, for me, supporting our president is the American thing to do. So I'm united under our president. First of all, he's our president. So, to make violent threats against him and all these things is really un-American and really horrible.
And it's ridiculous.
I didn't like all
it's
that.
ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's just, it really is being on the wrong side of history. It's not being, correct. And I mean, it's being negative, it's being hateful, it's being violent. And I do not support that. That being said, I'm about love, tolerance, respect, and as an American citizen, and I absolutely voted for Donald Trump, and I supported him, and I still support him, and I'm proud to say
I want to know why.
Like
why did you like him? Why did you like him?
I mean, he's making the economy stronger.
There you
First
go.
of all, I
there
like
you
him
go.
because he said the same thing for the last 30 years. When you go back, you look at the old Oprah interviews and interviews when he was a young guy 30 years ago, and he's like, I don't think I'd run for president, but if it got really bad, I'd like to change the economy. And he gave up a lot. He's a stable businessman. He is a celebrity. He didn't need to be president. It's actually worse for him. So he obviously stepped in because he said, I really want to make a change. I know I have solutions for the economy, solutions for the American people. And I truly believe that he is implementing those solutions. And the dollar's up. America's stronger. Things are really starting to change. And that's what I like about him. He's a strong, true, and honest businessman. He's not a politician. He says what he means. It means what he says. And he's about making America great again. He really is. He's an honest guy.
Have you heard from Donald since you did this little publicity stunt?
Not yet. I have not.
Well,
Donald.
maybe I'll put you two together. Donald is a friend of mine, as you might know, and I worked very hard for him. I opened all his events in Vegas, and I've got the direct line to his office. I'll send a little note to the gals inside his office who sit right there. Their desk is right outside the door to the Oval Office, and I'll say, has Donald spoken to Joy yet? Because if he wants to call her, it'd be great publicity for him and her, and I'll give him your phone number, okay? So I'll do that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Is it pronounced Joy
Villa?
Joy Villa. Okay,
Villa. That's
like
right.
a home,
That's
a
my
villa.
Italian root.
There we
go. Like a big Italian villa,
All
big
right.
home.
Oh, you're
right.
Italian? That's
big,
your roots?
Beautiful home.
Your roots are Italian?
I'm Italian. My dad is Italian, full-blooded, and my grandparents immigrated from Italy and Sicily, my grandma, and my mom is Black American and Choctaw and Cherokee Native American.
For some reason, I thought you were Filipino, but that's probably your dress designer. Is that what I heard?
That's my dress designer. He's Filipino.
Got it.
That's right.
And
there's a lot of villas in the Philippines too. There's some villas and villas because of Spanish influence.
That's so funny that you're from Italy and Sicily, because I'm a Jewish kid who yesterday was honored by the Italian American Club of Vegas, and they made me honorary Italian yesterday. So I was just made into Italian yesterday.
Welcome to the club.
Welcome to the club. There it goes. You talking to me? Are you talking to me?
Well, Jews and Italians have a lot in common.
They do.
We have a really awesome, a lot of people thought my dad was Jewish, and he's like, yeah, we're very similar.
Yes.
A lot of attitude, a lot of honesty, take no BS.
Exactly.
Great cultures.
As they said last night at the event, they said, Wayne Root, you're leaving a religion of incredible guilt. Welcome to a religion of incredible guilt. So we went straight from Jew to Catholic, So nothing much changed, believe me. Joy, what do your compatriots say? You know, the people in the music business must hate you because they're all liberals and they hate Trump.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is why I did this. You know, it's really, I wanted to change the narrative. I really wanted to make an impact in some small way to show support, love for our president of the United States. He's not campaigning. You know, there was a lot of mudslinging going on. Fine during the campaign. That's kind of what happens. It's kind of crazy. But he's the president now. So for you to proclaim he's not my president and I hate him and all this stuff, it's really negative. And it shows that we're divided instead of united. So I really want to bring everyone together on the same page. If you don't agree with him and his policies, fine, but give him a chance to do what he said he was going to do, and be an American, support our president. Let's be united in this, because united we stand. So, I mean, a lot of musicians, you know, they grumble, they complain, and, you know, I did face quite a backlash. I get a lot of trolls online that say whatever, and it's just very nasty. You know,
Did you get,
does show more what they think rather than me, because they mudsling me racist comments, right?
Of course.
You know, anti-religious comments against my religion, against my faith, against my people, against my ethnic background, against my gender, against everything.
Joy,
and I would never, ever do that to somebody else just because they voted for somebody different than I voted for.
Joy,
That's not okay.
Do you know the definition of a racist? Anyone winning an argument with a liberal. I mean, it's just automatic. If you're winning, they call you a racist. So I don't have a racist bone. I don't have a racist bone in my body. But every time you argue for Donald Trump, you're a racist. So you're
automatically called bigoted, and
Exactly.
you're a racist, and you're a fascist. And it's like, where is this coming from? Where are you getting your information?
Yeah.
Because when I researched before I went to the polls, I found the opposite to be true. And that's why I stand by my president, too. I truly believe in my heart that he wants the best for this country. He's doing the best he can, and he's not a politician. And I love that he keeps a direct line, like his Twitter account. You know, he says what he says. And no other president I have seen has been so forthcoming and like, hey, let me tell you what's going on. And that's awesome. You know, that's a modern president. We need a modern president who can just be very open. He doesn't need to have 25 people interpret what he says before it gets to us. You're going to hear it from him first.
Now, I can see why you're for Trump, because you are far more intelligent than the average liberal in Hollywood or the average liberal in the music business. You are very intelligent, Joy. And so where did you come from?
Thank you very much.
Where are you from? Where were you raised?
I was raised, I was born in Orange County, actually. My parents lived there when I was born, and I was there until I was 5. Then we moved to Napa Valley. We moved up and down California for my dad's work. He's a minister, and my mom's an artist, and she was a stay-at-home mom, and then raised me in Santa Barbara, which is mostly where I grew up. And then we moved to New York. We'd go to New York often, which is kind of where my adopted home is. I love New York City. I really love New York. They're very direct and open. Hey, they say what they mean, you know. And then we moved back to Los Angeles. So most of my teenage years were spent in L.A. with a fake ID. And
But are you? So were you raised evangelical Christian when you say your dad's a minister?
Yes.
So that would explain the conservative streak, because otherwise I'd say,
Absolutely.
Where the heck does that come from someone in the showbiz business, right?
Well, we're the most, interracial couple. You know, my mom's black, my dad's white. You know, we're a colorful, mixed group of people. We're all artists and kind of wild looking. And, you know, and it doesn't, I guess you, on first glance, I'm vegan, I have tattoos. You'd be like, what? You know, where does she come from? And honestly, I've always been myself, and my parents told me, God created you to be an artist, do what you want to do. You know, always be ethical, treat people with respect and politeness, respect other people's beliefs. But that does not mean you have to dilute your belief system. So I've always put God first, and I've always been, you know, just somebody who's had a strong voice, and I didn't need to rely on my looks or anything else. My parents told me that I was brilliant, use my mind, use my artistic creation. You know, they raised me really right.
Did you go to college? Are you a college grad?
I didn't go to college. I actually graduated high school at 16 years old, 2 years early, and then I went into TV production at Comcast Cablevision at 16 years old for Youth Network TV. So I was a director of programming to 40,000 people in my county, in Santa Barbara County. and including Lompoc and Santa Maria. And shout out to Chris Brock of Youth Network Television in Lompoc, California. He gave me my big start after I graduated high school. And I got into producing live TV segments like a talk show. We did skits. We did local artists we'd have on there, and it was really fun. I loved that.
So at that point,
this is what I wanted to do.
You weren't a singer at that point?
Well, I did. I performed also with my guitar. So I was a singer. So I was raised at 5 years old. I went into my first musical theater production, and I was hooked. My mom made me an angel in a Christmas play, and I was totally hooked. I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I'm going to be famous. I'm going to be on TV, and this is what I do. This is my job. At 5 years old, I knew this is what I wanted to do. So musical theater was singing, dancing, and acting. So I grew up writing poems and singing with my younger brother and my older brother, and we would do little skits and plays, and I got a camcorder at 11 years old, and I'd film little skits and plays, and, social media happened, and then, just always what I wanted to do. I pursued acting pretty heavily when we moved to Los Angeles, and then I found out, acting is awesome, but I'm neglecting my music, and my music is my heart and soul. So in 2011, I started pursuing music, and that's what really started catching fire. And I got opportunities to tour across the world as an independent artist, and so that's what I've mainly done. I kind of made it a pyramid. Music is at the center, at the top, and then the rest of my things I still do and love.
Very cool. Very, very brilliant. Joy, you've built quite a little career here off your Donald Trump support. We all appreciate it. How do people reach you? Is there a website where they can get your music or buy your music or hear about music, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. Well, all my music is for sale on digital, iTunes, and Amazon. And you can actually go directly to joyvilla.com. At joyvilla.com, I have wristbands that goes 50% of the sales go to support the Veterans Administration because my dad was in the Army and he's retired military, and my aunt was in the Marines. She's retired captain, so I support our military 100%. And my music is on there. You can get an autographed copy, and that's at joyvilla.com.
Joy, we love you. We think you're great. We wish you great success in your career. You're fantastic.
You're
a breath
awesome.
of fresh air. All right,
My
Joy.
pleasure.
Joyvilla.com. That's where you can find her music, and I want all the people listening to my show, my fans, to go there and buy it. And I'll tell you why, because she deserves your support, because she had the incredible courage to wear that dress at the Grammys. By the way, last question before we let you go.
Yeah.
At the Grammys,
Sure.
when you showed up with that dress, what kind of hate did you encounter?
Well, first, when I took my cloak off, my Andre Soriano creation was seen, and the photographers cheered for me. They were all cheering. So that was really cool. That was
the
fun.
photographers were
And
pro-Trump, is what you're saying?
I don't know. They were cheering. I think they were like, "Wow, somebody did something different."
I think
finally.
you
they were
probably
just excited.
see. I haven't seen you. I think you must just have a really nice body. That's why they were cheering, I would guess.
That was all Photoshop. No, just kidding. Yeah.
All right, but what was the reaction of the people at the event, the singers and the?
I got some nasty looks. I got some wrinkled noses. I had a guy who said under his breath as he passed me by in a low voice, "I wish I could step on it." I was like, "Well, you wish? Go for it. Try it."
And listen, I understand now. I understand now very clearly after this interview that you really are real. You are genuine. You really like Trump. You come from a great family. All that's good. But don't tell me you're not a brilliant marketer, too, because you knew exactly what you were doing. What a brilliant way to put your name on the map.
You.
So brilliant. I give you kudos.
I didn't know exactly that it would be this. Honestly, I knew it would create a fuss and there'd be a controversy around it. Andre Soriano, the designer, and I were fully prepared for that. Like my other outfits created like a buzz.
Mm-hmm.
But I did not expect the outpouring of love and support, like all the Trump supporters. I thought I was kind of alone, to be honest with you. I didn't think there was that many of us. And now I know thousands of people that are like, we think the same.
Listen,
I was very isolated in
Think
Hollywood.
about Chick-fil-A, right? The minute everybody was against them, all the Christians got together, stood in line for hours to support them. Think about Ivanka Trump when Nordstrom dumped her.
Yes.
She's #1 at Amazon in her fragrance and her shoes.
Her brand is selling like crazy.
Of
It's really high
course.
quality stuff.
We have 62 million friends.
That's an honor.
Yeah.
We were very isolated. I feel like I've kind of helped in some way to be a public figure on this, and I hope that more people come out and say, hey, he's our president. He's a good guy. Let's give him a chance.
Well,
Let's
I think
be
he's
united.
doing. Listen, it's been a month and a half, and he's done a great job. I love everything he's done. So
he's absolutely amazing.
he
I'm
is.
proud to say he's my president. He's absolutely my president. He's doing fantastic.
All right, Joy, thank you.
Yeah.
Joy, it's joyvilla.com. Joyvilla.com is where you get her music, or go to or read about her, and you can go to Amazon or iTunes and get it too. Hey, Joy, thanks for being on Wayne Root. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. God bless.
Have a great weekend. God bless. War Now. When we get back, we'll take your calls. 844-WAR-NOW-1. 844-WAR-NOW-1, toll free, or 844-927-6691, toll free, all over the great United States. This is War. All right, one of my favorite groups, Guns N' Roses. Welcome back to War Now, 790 Talk Now. Talk that rocks. Hey, Guns N' Roses rocks. That's perfect. Perfect intro. 790 Talk Now in Vegas and in Palm Springs, 98.1 FM, the whole Coachella Valley. Lots of things going on out there if you want to talk about them. What about that interview I just had with Joy Villa? She's great. That's the most well-spoken singer, actress, musician I've ever had on the show. 844-WAR-NOW-1. No wonder she's for Trump. She's intelligent. 844-WAR-NOW-1. Toll-free number from anywhere in the country, otherwise known as numerically 844-927-6691. We'll take your calls now. Let me update you on something that's been happening in Las Vegas. And as a Jewish American, of course, it concerns me. Police are investigating suspicious messages that prompted the temporary closure of the Las Vegas Jewish Community Center and surrounding businesses on Friday, meaning today. The building in the 8600 block of West Sahara Avenue and neighboring businesses were closed around 1 p.m. today, the Metro Police Department said. Lake Sahara Drive was closed between West Sahara Avenue and Lake East Drive. The closures have now been lifted. No additional information was immediately available. On February 27th, the Jewish Community Center received a bomb threat and required evacuation. Police searched for explosives and cleared the building 2 hours later. So, we're not immune here in Vegas from, some terrible people. And isn't it interesting when you talk about terrible people, liberals would say, oh, white extremists, KKK. They caught the guy that was making many of the bomb threats all around the United States. And, of course, he was a liberal Democrat who supported Obama and Hillary. Do you know that? And why not? Democrats are always on the side of the Palestinians and always claiming Jews in Israel are occupiers of the Palestinian state and terrible people. Well, they're the terrible people, and they're the liberal, bleeding heart losers who have turned this into anti-Semitism. You find me someone who hates Jews, I'll find you a Democrat liberal in every single case, or quite possibly someone who is sympathetic to the Muslim cause, which also is usually a Democrat liberal. 99 out of 100 times, a liberal Democrat. So you showed me the people that stood up at the Hillary convention, the Gold Star mom and dad, big liberals, big Muslims, and big business with his law firm bringing Muslims into the United States under visa requirements. I think HB1 visas, if I remember correctly. Big liberals. And I guarantee you that's where you find most of your anti-Semites who phone in death threats and bomb threats against Jewish community centers. This isn't KKK white guys who support Trump. Democrats are just become awful people. It's the same people that phone in assassination attempts or put them in public on Twitter and Facebook against President Donald Trump. Just disgraceful people. All right. We'll take a quick call, and we've got Jody on line one. Jody, you're on with War.
Hi, War. It's good to talk to you.
How are you?
I'm good. This is my first time calling.
Hey, welcome to the show. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to have you on. What's on your mind?
I want to tell you, before President Trump was elected, I would listen to you, and I'd be like all jazzed and excited, and then I would listen to something else, and they'd be saying he's not going to win, and so then I would have to turn you back on to make it through. But I wanted to ask you, I received a letter, kind of a petition, saying for everyone to send a letter of gratitude and thank you for President Trump on March 16th to kind of overwhelm the Postal Service and everything. I didn't know if that was something you've heard of or this was just a one-off thing.
I've heard of it, but I haven't gotten it, so I don't really know much about it. But then again, I'm a really busy guy, and I get 300-400 emails a day, and they sometimes... I just can't keep up with them all, and sometimes they fall through the crack. So it's possible that I got it and I don't even know. But I did hear about it. Someone mentioned it to me, so I don't think you're you're getting it in a vacuum. I think it's definitely something going on. I know in April here in Vegas, there's going to be a MAGA, Make America Great Again rally for Donald Trump's, to celebrate Donald Trump's first 100 days. It's going to be a massive rally, and they've already asked me to be the opening speaker and master of ceremonies. So, I mean, there's things going on to support Donald Trump. We all got to do them and join them and participate in them and show America and show the world, like where I just was for 2 weeks in Asia. All they see in the media is scenes of protesters against Trump. They don't realize there's lots of people that like Trump. We have to make sure that we counter that image, right? So go ahead and do it, Jody. Do it.
Perfect.
All
Spread
right.
the word to everybody else.
All right, Jody, thank you for calling. Thank you for being a first-time caller. Don't let it be your only time. Make it a regular thing to call this show, all right? Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
All right, we're taking a quick ad break. Lots of great sponsors to thank for why you get this show free. When we get back, more of your calls, 844-WAR-NOW-1. 844 toll-free, WAR Now 1, or 844-927-6691. 927-6691. Wayne Allyn Root, War Now. All right, Wayne Allyn Root, War Now. We're taking your calls, 844-WAR Now 1, toll-free, 844-WAR Now 1, toll-free anywhere in the United States, or numerically 844-927-6691. Lots of good news in the news today. The U.S. added 28,000 jobs in manufacturing and only 8,000 in government. So we beat government by almost 4-1. That's good news. That's good news. That's really good news. The U.S. created 235,000 jobs in February, well above the 190,000 expected. How about this amazing stat? U.S. debt decreased by more than $60 billion since the Trump inauguration. How could that be, by the way? I'm going to read this article just for the first time as you're listening to it so I can find out what the heck happened. I don't understand how that happened. The U.S. debt reduced by more than $60 billion since the Trump inauguration. I've never seen that before. On January 20th, the day of the Trump inauguration, the U.S. debt stood at $19,947 billion. And on March 8th, more than a month later, the U.S. debt is at $19,879 billion. Trump has cut the U.S. debt burden by $68 billion, which is about 0.3% since his inauguration. By comparison, under President Obama, the U.S. debt burden increased by more than $320 billion after his inauguration at the same stage in March 2009. Obama increased the U.S. debt by 3.1% during this time period and signed the $1 trillion stimulus bill, which is widely considered a colossal failure and a waste of U.S. tax dollars as well. The failed stimulus did not kick in until later in Obama's first year, leading to Obama's first-year deficit of $1.4 trillion. Overall, Obama doubled the U.S. debt during his presidency and set records for the highest deficits and the largest debt increase ever by a U.S. president. 1 month after the Trump inauguration, U.S. debt was down $12 billion, and now it's down $68 billion. With Trump, the stock market's up, jobs are increasing, salaries are increasing, debt is down. Winning, winning, winning. And oh, so true it is. All right, we got a caller on line one. We'll take Ron from Las Vegas. Hey, Ron, you're on with WAR. How are you?
Hello, my friend. Wayne Allyn Root. This is Ron the Patriot. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Ron, how are you?
Fine, fine. I understand, all these so-called heroes are starting to blow up Jewish properties and things like that. And I'll tell you what, nobody can find a word for these people. And I'm going to tell you what, you and I and J.D. know and James know the name for these people. They are terrorists.
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's a Jewish church, a Catholic church, Protestant church, doesn't matter.
And
These people
and Ron,
are terrorists.
And Ron,
period.
Ron,
and it's time that all you people start bringing it out to the people that we are under terrorism right now. We're under a terrorist attack.
And by the way, obviously, if you listen to the show, I'm not a big fan of the Muslim sympathizers in the Democratic.
Every day.
All right, so obviously, not a big fan, me, of people who are Muslim sympathizers, bend over backwards like Obama to save Muslims and Muslim this and Muslim that. Having said that, if a person did this to a Muslim mosque, I would consider them terrible and to be a terrorist. You can't allow people to do this to anyone. Anyone.
Mr. Root, sir, I am a American. If you can't come to my country and be an American, you deserve an M16 and you stand up against the wall and we'll shoot you down. You come to my country, we'll kill you all. You got to understand. You remember the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, sir? You remember the shores of Tripoli, the very first treaty that jerk off over there in Tripoli signed with our country? He broke it. And that's why Madison had to send over the Navy and John Paul Jones to kill these bastards, and that's why we have Marines today.
Right, but just...
Am I right or wrong, sir?
Well, just remember...
America is America is America.
Ron,
if you don't like this country, get the hell out. You're a traitor and you're a terrorist. Am I right or wrong?
Hey, Ron, if you don't like this country, get the hell out. I'm with you 100%. Just remember, we don't want anybody sending in bomb threats to mosques any more than Catholic churches or Jewish synagogues or Jewish community centers.
You're doggone right. We don't want no terrorists in this country, period.
Exactly.
We don't need it here. And if they want to be here, I'll tell you what. They go down to the Iron Workers Union Hall Monday morning, and there'll be 100 men waiting with M16s to kill any damn god terrorist that thinks he's a man. Blow up women and children, that's not a man. Those are gosh darn terrorists. They are women. They're lower than... They say a woman is half a man. Those men ain't even half a woman.
Hey, Ron, I don't think women are half a man. I think women are equal to men, but...
No, that's what they preach. I don't preach that. I'm an American. Any woman in this country is equal to me, and I'm 71 years old. I wasn't born yesterday. I've seen all this stuff happen over the last 60 years.
All right, Ron.
Ain't nobody done nothing.
All right, Ron the Patriot.
I've always been a voice in the wilderness. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. Well, I'll tell you what. The next time you get on a plane and it blows up, remember when you see that flame, remember me. Okay, buddy?
All right, Ron the Patriot. Thank you. We're headed to an ad break. Take care of our sponsors. Thank you for the call, Ron. Ron gets a little excited, but his heart's in the right place, I'm sure. When we come back, I'll be talking to you about my column in the RJ coming up on Sunday, Obamacare, the lesson of Nevada. I hope Governor Sandoval is listening, because if he is, his head's going to explode. And then we've got a great story about bad cops and good cops coming up next. Wayne Allyn Root, News Time. War now. This is war. This is war. This is... All right, Wayne Allyn Root, War Now. If you weren't with us in the last hour, we talked about some very interesting things. The U.S. debt decreased by more than $60 billion since Trump's inauguration. How did that happen? Donald Trump turns out to be a spending cutter? When did that happen? He didn't announce that to anyone. We talked about military being free of shackles and kicking ass against ISIS. Something nobody in the media is talking about because no one in the media seems to know what's going on. We talked about the United States adding 28,000 jobs in manufacturing and only 8,000 in government, out of a total of 235,000 new jobs created in February under Donald Trump versus the 190,000 expected. Lots and lots of good things are going on. We talked about Jeff Sessions asking all remaining Obama-appointed U.S. attorneys to hit the road, Jack. Don't you look back. I'd like him to say, kick your ass, Jack, and don't let the door hit you on the way out. And feel bad about it because we don't really care. We really don't care. Let me see this, 28,000 jobs in manufacturing, 8,000 in government. So almost 4-to-1 jobs in manufacturing versus government. The United States added 28,000 jobs in manufacturing in February, 8,000 in government. So far, in 2017, the U.S. has gained 39,000 manufacturing jobs and 25,000 government jobs. By the way, if this is so easy and no big deal, you know, Democrats will go, oh, no big deal. Really? If it's so easy, how come Obama could never, ever do it? Explain to me. In 8 years, he could never make more manufacturing jobs appear than government jobs. Because Barack Obama is a jackass. Barack Obama is incompetent. And Barack Obama is a Marxist communist socialist. That's why. He doesn't know anything about creating jobs. Never created a job in his life. Never. Not one. He's never in the private sector in his life. Couldn't last in a private sector job, let alone create one. Wouldn't know a job would hit him in the face. Barack Obama. What a joke. What a joke. His own brother says he's a Kenyan-born citizen. His brother announced that yesterday. Did you know that? Barack Obama's brother released on the internet a photo of Obama's Kenyan birth certificate. Now, do I know it's real? I have no idea. I have never gotten involved in this debate where Obama was born. But it wouldn't surprise me to think he was born in Kenya. Wouldn't surprise me that he released a false birth certificate. He's a fraud in everything else he's ever done. I always said that the real scam, was that Obama was in Obama's college records at Columbia University with me. I graduated same day, same class, same college, class of 83, Columbia University, and Obama just wasn't there. And he could argue all he wants that he was there, but he wasn't there. Now, I don't know if he was there, meaning was he actually ever there? He certainly was never seen by another human being. He may have graduated. That may be because he had some sort of insider status with CIA, KGB. I don't know who he was with. But someone created some sort of false narrative that had Obama at Columbia for 2 years when in reality he was never there. And I say 2 years. Columbia, of course, is one of the finest colleges in the world. In the most recent studies, ranked number 5 in the world. So I take great joy in telling you that because I graduated that school. It's not a 2-year school. It's not a community college. The reason he was only there 2 years, I use that figure 2 years, is he spent his first 2 years at Occidental and then 2 years at Columbia University, transferred in. And I've argued in article after article and book after book, he's a fraud. The story doesn't make sense, and I have every right to say it doesn't make sense. Here's what's funny. I kept arguing when you get the next president, he's a Republican, and Democrats start criticizing everything about him and screaming that he's a fraud, and he's this and he's that. At that point, are they all birthers? Because isn't that the name Democrats gave all of us? John Ralston, one of my favorite journalists. John Ralston, a real liberal to the left of Karl Marx, but he tries to act like he's a moderate, unbiased, professional journalist. These guys are all so full of you-know-what. Crap. You can say crap on the radio. I won't say the word I was thinking, what John Ralston's full of, up to his lips. What he spews, the toxic waste daily. Hates Republicans, hates conservatives, hates me most of all. Most of all, of anyone in the world, he hates Wayne Root. Because I'm dare to be a Jewish Republican conservative, and he's Jewish too, and he just can't stand it. Just the way blacks can't stand when a black leaves the plantation and they become a Republican like Ben Carson. Oh my God, do they get in trouble? They hate him. They call you Uncle Tom. You don't love your own people. You hate your own people. When a Jew leaves the plantation and doesn't toe the company line and becomes a Republican, liberal Jews try and destroy you. They hate you more than anyone else. They hate you more than they would hate a Muslim who hates Jews, right? A Muslim who wants to kill Jews. Oh, that's okay. But a Jew's a conservative. Oh, that they hate. So John Ralston hates me. But John Ralston has made up. He's a fraud because he's a liar. He knows I've never brought up Obama's birth in my whole life. I have no knowledge of where Obama was born. And I never claimed to have it. I have no knowledge of birth certificates. I know nothing about them. I don't know what's fake and what's not. So I never even commented. But everyone has a right to ask any question you want about a president of the United States. That includes Donald Trump. You have every right to ask any question you want to ask, and every liberal is now doing it. So are they birthers? Because that's what John Ralston claimed. He called me a birther multiple times. I thought so seriously about suing him for everything he owns, but then people told me he doesn't own anything. And why would I spend $100,000 or $200,000 in legal fees to go after a jerk who owns nothing? And if I won, he couldn't give me anything. So I'm not going to waste my $200,000. That'll pay for my next kid's Harvard or Stanford education. And it's coming up in a year. So I didn't sue John Ralston, but I should have sued him for libel or slander, whatever the correct legal term is. I think it's libel, because he lied, said I'm a birther. I've never brought up Obama's birth in my life with any knowledge that I have of it. I'm now bringing up that Obama's own brother says he was born in Kenya, therefore unqualified to be president of the United States. I don't know. But I always brought up my 2 years at Columbia when he was there at the same time as me. I was there 4 years. He was there the last 2, and something's wrong. Something smells rotten. First of all, you can't transfer into Columbia University with poor grades. Everyone who knew him at Occidental said he had lousy grades and never showed up in class. So it's impossible he could have gotten into the 5th best college in the world, which is Columbia, with lousy grades at Occidental, which is an average school. You couldn't even get into Columbia if you graduated valedictoria from Occidental. You couldn't get into Columbia. So something was wrong there, and I wasn't the one who said it. My classmates said it. Several of my classmates said, impossible to transfer to Columbia a mid-career in college unless you are number 1 in your class at Harvard, Stanford, Princeton, or Yale. Other than that, Columbia would never accept you. So he was a lousy student, mediocre or average at best, but probably mediocre and below average at Occidental. How did he get into Columbia? And my answer has always been, he got in by portraying himself as a foreign exchange student from Indonesia. Always been. I've never mentioned Kenya, by the way, because I think Obama just played up the fact and took advantage of the fact that he was raised in Indonesia by his mother and his Muslim father and went to Indonesian schools and therefore had all kinds of records from his Indonesian schools. And Columbia was so happy for the diversity and the inclusion and the social justice that made all the white guilty liberals feel so good that a black man was standing in front of them from Indonesia that they never asked a single question and let him in. It was the ultimate in affirmative action. They wanted a foreign student from Indonesia because Columbia wants to brag we have students from 200 countries around the world. And they probably never got one in their lives from Indonesia. So that's how Obama jumped to the head of the class and got into a school that he had no right to get into. That's how it happened. And by saying that, and I had total standing to say it, because I went to Columbia with Obama, and he wasn't there. And all I did was honestly state, he was never there. The story stinks. There's something wrong. And, oh, by the way, there's no way he could have gotten in. And, oh, by the way, I think he got in as a foreign student. And that would explain, by the way, there's only 2 choices. Either he wasn't there at all, and I've never said that, I just don't know, or he was on a completely different track than me as a foreign student. Because foreign students live in different dorms, generally off campus. They are housed with other foreign students, and they take completely different career track and education track. And I never saw him at Columbia. Maybe that's why. So either Obama wasn't there or he was there, and that's always been my argument. He was there. But he was a foreign student, foreign exchange student. Got in under a Fulbright scholarship, didn't pay a dime for Columbia, got in because of his claim to be an Indonesian student. And John Ralston said, that makes you a birther. I said, really? My lawyer threatened to sue him, and he said, oh, no. Anyone who questions Obama's past is a birther. Really? I've never heard that definition before. The word birther denotes you're questioning his birth. And by the way, I have no problem with a person questioning Obama's birth. You have every right to. His own brother just did it. His own brother produced the birth certificate that says he was born in Kenya. Was he? I don't know. But he was raised in Indonesia. That I know. And he used that to get into Columbia. That's my best guess. And it's an educated guess, and it's a damn good one. That's the scandal. That's the scam. Funny world we live in. John Ralston. Hey, John, are you questioning anything about Donald Trump's past? What does that make you? A Trumper? Actually, it makes you a jackass. You've always been one. You were born one. Wayne Allyn, War Now. #1 show in Las Vegas. And now, syndication nationwide next month. We'll see you in a sec. All right, Wayne Allyn, welcome back. I had just finished telling you that the U.S. added 28,000 manufacturing jobs in the month of February versus 8,000 in government, almost 4-to-1 advantage for private sector versus government, but more importantly, manufacturing private sector, not just service jobs, not some stupid waiter job in a restaurant that pays minimum wage plus tips, but rather real high-income manufacturing jobs. And then one of my listeners, Joe, is a brilliant, brilliant guy, and will soon be running for office, by the way, in another state. Him and I have had some conversations off mic. Joe sent me this brilliant note. The reason manufacturing job growth matters most is because the supply line requirements provide even more jobs. Detroit became what it was, not just because a single plant closed. One manufacturing plant had parts builders, often small businesses, and they closed by the hundreds every time one plant closed. So brilliant reasoning, Joe. Something that Obama or Hillary could never do because they've never built a plant or a business in their lives. They don't understand how one business radiates out to so many other businesses. Funny, I see a cover story out of Vegas Magazine on the desk of my board op Charlie here, and it says the cover story is immigration, how it affects all of us, what it's going to do to Vegas if we go out and deport a lot of people. And I'm sure when I read the article, what it will tell me is, oh my God, the Vegas economy will be devastated if you ship illegals back to Mexico because, you know, they eat at a food truck and the food truck will go out of business, and they work at a casino and the casino will go out of business, and they support a family and the family will be starving. But never did they think about the fact that when you raise taxes, you kill thousands of manufacturing jobs, and those people radiate out to all the small businessmen and all their employees. In other words, Democrats only look at the effect of getting rid of illegals, but they never worry about legal Americans. They never worry about what happens when we lose a job. It's always illegals, illegals, illegals. You know, it's almost as if I have to do something terrible to make Democrats like me. If I murdered someone, Democrats would like me. If I raped someone, Democrats would like me. If I broke into the country, Democrats would love me. But if you're a good person and you do everything right your whole life, Democrats couldn't care less about you, especially if you're a good person and you believe in personal responsibility and you don't ask the government to help you and you don't accept welfare or food stamps or Medicaid. Then Democrats absolutely dislike you. They hate you. They despise you. It's the oddest thinking I've ever seen in my entire life. No businessman could survive if that's the way you think. They just couldn't survive. All right, let's take a quick call. We've got JD on line one, and then we've got a great guest for you. JD, you're on with Wayne on the Root. How are you, buddy?
Good. Part of the deficit was he cut $2.5 billion from the arts fund. You know, the people that put urine in jars with crucifix and display them in sanitariums and such. Just now, the Wisconsin judge stopped his new immigration order with an injunction. Somebody in the Trump administration has to say, you know, these judges can be impeached for incompetence. And Ron the Patriot is just a passionate patriot. I love him. And I know now I love Gary with his Swedish and Italian meatballs. He's fantastic. But anyhow, one of the reasons I had on my notes all week long, and I never got to it, why hasn't Trump fired the U.S. attorneys? Clinton fired all 100 of them, and nothing happened. Bush fired 8 of them, and there was a firestorm. The Democrats and the press went crazy. So now you're saying he's given 46 to Bums Rush. He should have done that, like you said. I agree.
First day.
Right off the hop.
First hour. First hour.
That would have been the first thing. But watch the firestorm that starts now with that. And you know, like I said, Clinton's fired all 100, and nobody raised a voice about
by the way, let me correct you. Let's always be accurate. It couldn't be all 100. It's got to be all 50, right? There's only one U.S. attorney per state. So he fired all 50.
That's what I meant.
Right,
to say.
and he just let go 46.
I want to fire all 100 senators. I guess that's
there we go.
That's what I'm thinking.
But I think this is funny because do you have any idea the firestorm that's going to develop tonight, tomorrow, Sunday, Monday? They're going to say he's a fascist, and this proves it. He's the most horrible president in history. We've got to impeach him. He had no right to do this, and everybody does it. Everyone.
Everybody will forget Clinton fired all 100 or 50 or whatever.
All 50.
And like I said, another Wisconsin federal judge, somebody has to tell these judges, hey, they stop. Hey, that thing I sent you on that John guy from Kingston, PA, I don't know how to, there's no links, but do you remember him?
No. Which guy is this now?
I sent you a text, John Pluchanik. He had a big article in a magazine in Pennsylvania about your book, The Murder of the Middle Class, and he worked with you. He said it's called The Independent from Pennsylvania. He worked with you in the 80s when you made a name for yourself with Jimmy the Greek, and as a classmate of Barack Obama. He says the self-proclaimed son of a butcher, and so he knew you quite well, I guess. And then
Did
he
he
has
say
a
nice
picture
things
of you.
about the book? Nice things about it?
It's a whole page. He has a picture of you with the, the red cover, The Murder of the Middle Class,
yep.
and it's a great article. He talks about Peter Schiff and a whole bunch of things.
Send me the link, because you didn't send me the link. You just said that the article was written, but send me the link. I don't remember him. But, I don't remember people from 2 weeks ago because I have 10,000 people I meet a week.
I know, but the only link I could send you is Art Linkletter. I don't know what you're talking about with a link.
Well, didn't you see the article
link.
online? Didn't you catch it online? Where was the article?
I got it in a magazine in Pennsylvania. The magazine's 3 years old.
You are such a dinosaur. You think you rip things out of a magazine and hand it to people. No, you find a link online and you send them a link, man. JD, you're driving me crazy. All right, we got a guest. We got to take it. JD, thank you. We love you. He's a great guy. He is just a great guy, and he's got a resource of great, great facts. All right, we've got our guest, Brian Crabtree. He's on the line now. But the issue is, Brian, that as soon as we got you, it's almost time to go to an ad break. So I think what I'd like to do is go to a quick ad break right now, and then I could keep you straight through for 15 minutes. Okay? Is that fine with you? Brian? Is he there? Brian, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'll stand by.
So stand by, and that way I don't have to divide up my interview with you. Brian is going to talk about the wiretap debate that WikiLeaks has dumped on the world and whether it appears accurate that Donald Trump was in fact wiretapped by Obama, which I think it is very accurate. It appears very accurate. And I want to hear what Brian has to say. He's a publisher of Talk40.com, and you've seen his articles on Town Hall and Clash Daily and Daily Caller. And we'll get to Brian in just 1 second. Wayne Allyn, War Now. Let's hear from our sponsors. All great people handpicked by me. Stay tuned. All right. Wayne Allyn back again at War Now, 790 Talk Now in Vegas, 98.1 FM in Palm Springs, and soon all over the great United States with national syndication. We've got Brian Crabtree on the line. He's a publisher and a journalist and writer, contributor to Clash Daily, Daily Caller, Town Hall, Talk40.com, all the above. Great guy. We've had him on the show before, and he's here to talk about the wiretap debate involving Donald Trump and Barack Obama and all the other stuff dropped by WikiLeaks. Interesting stuff, and we'd like to hear what he has to say. Brian, welcome to the show.
Good to be with you.
So, first of all, are you convinced that Trump was dealing illegally with Russians, or are you convinced that Obama was illegally tapping Trump? Which one or both?
Really neither. Technically neither, but let me clarify. Spent a lot of time researching this in depth, and I think Trump spoke with hyperbole on Twitter last weekend, meaning that Obama, in terms of the Obama administration, he can't just say all these words and clarify on Twitter. He's got to say it in the most polarizing way. The media is a bunch of hacks, so they respond with chaos. I think Obama is not likely guilty. I would love the fact that Obama is guilty of wiretapping Trump, and it's a Watergate Nixon criminal kind of thing, and he goes to jail. That would be sweet justice. I don't think that exists. I think that Obama's biggest problem, aside from his politics and his policies, is that he surrounds himself with really deviant people. And I think someone within his administration at a high-ranking level, unbeknownst to Obama, or at least sort of without Obama's direction, caused this to happen. I do think Trump was wiretapped. I don't think Trump has anything to do with a connection with Russian officials or Russia in general, other than the fact that he is a billionaire and he's running a multi-billion-dollar business. And every multi-billion-dollar business everywhere in the world has a connection to big countries around the world. I mean, lack of a better, more professional word, duh. If you're worth billions of dollars, you're doing business with lots of different people in lots of different countries. I'll get into in a moment what I think happened, but I think it's probably someone like a Paul Manafort and a Carter Page probably tried to do something that was a little bit inappropriate. And I think there was some of that going on in the Obama administration at the same levels. And I think that's the issue here. And I think most of the media is missing this because you're either for Trump or against him, or you're either for Obama or against him. And a lot of people, I don't think, spend the time to really think about what really happened here.
All right, but I've got a commentary that came out yesterday in the Las Vegas newspaper, where I have a twice-a-week column, the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and I said the Russian scandal, the influence peddling scandal, is a Hillary Clinton scandal, not a Donald Trump scandal. The fact that Donald Trump's aides spoke to Russians or or met with the Russian ambassador, if that's a scandal, what do you call doing business with Russia? What do you call Hillary accepting $145 million in return for agreeing to 1/5 of the uranium stock of the United States to be sent to a Russian company? Well, they donate that $145 million to her Clinton Foundation. Is that not a gigantic treasonous scandal?
Well, it's self-serving for me to say this, but that's a brilliant point, because I've been saying that on my radio interviews as well. Because, but it goes kind of thud when you say it, because people don't seem to even understand that if you've read into this, as it appears you have, and I have as well, this woman and this foundation called the Clinton Foundation got $32 million from a Canadian businessman with big-time Russian interests as a donation to the Clinton Foundation while she was at the State Department as the Secretary of State. And then they approved, as you said, 1/5 of the world's uranium trade to Russian companies that this guy sold to. That's the Reader's Digest version of what happened. It's much more complex. It's much more concerning, and no one seems to care about this. This is very visible. It's very true. This is not conspiracy. This is not alt-right. This is center America, and it's true. But I think what happens here is that you've got a situation where, and I have to talk about fake news for a second. The reason we're all ignorant in this country is because of fake news. And I don't think fake news is CNN and the Washington Post and New York Times really lying to us. I think it's what they're not telling us that's fake news. Just because they're harsh on Trump doesn't mean that they're bad. I'm fine. You want to be harsh on Donald Trump? Go for it. Knock it out. Be critical. Be very, very aggressive. That's fine. Here's the problem. If you're going to do that, you've got to do the same to the liberals and people like Clinton and people like Obama. When you don't do that to them, but you do it to Trump, that's what creates fake news, in my opinion. Yet again, another conversation we're not having intellectually about what really is the meaning of the hyperbole of fake news.
All right, smart guy, Brian, because great minds think alike. You and I are of the same mind. I've said this many times, that I don't think the media, I really haven't caught the media completely making stuff up, because they know you go to jail for that, or you lose your job for that, you lose your pension for that. So they're not stupid enough to cross that line. I'm sure a few have. But in general, it's not that Dan Rather or Tom Brokaw or Brian Williams made things up, but it's not like they make up facts and tell you lies. They just simply never, ever report on anything Hillary or Obama ever does wrong, or they paint it as right when it's wrong. And then they truthfully go after a Republican for everything he does that's minor, and they blow it up as major. None of that's a crime. You can't say they actually lied. It's all interpretation. It's all opinion. But everything Trump does is wrong, and it's built out of proportion, and everything Obama did was good, even though it was horrible. That's what they're guilty of doing. You've got it right, and I've got it right. And it's not pure fraud. It's just omission for the most part, and also interpretation. So today I opened up the Vegas paper, which is a very conservative paper, by the way, the most conservative in the nation, owned by Sheldon Adelson. And the cover story was by our White House correspondent. We now have a gal, who's a journalist woman who's assigned full-time to be a White House correspondent. I don't believe the Vegas paper's ever had that before. But yet she must be a liberal, because she did nothing but talk about the lies of Donald Trump and how he makes things up. But I've never seen anyone make a report on the lies of Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton. They made up all kinds of stuff, and nobody ever reported on it for 8 years. So it's the same thing again. It's choosing to only go after one side and completely ignore the problems and lies and frauds of the other.
Well, and you're talking about the reporter. Let's face it, these reporters, and I don't mean to be demeaning, they're not that smart. They're intellectually lazy. They don't have curiosity. radio people, I have to admit, are a class of people that are different. We all have very intense curiosity. If you don't, you can't do radio. And I'm not trying to toot our own horn. We're just very curious people, and we're interested in a lot of different things. And so when you look at these reporters, they're just journalists. They've been taught textbook mentality, indoctrinated in liberal institutions in a box. And so what they do is they approach things from a very bureaucratic standpoint. They see things that don't fit, and so the first thing they do is reject it. That's what Donald Trump is. He doesn't fit any box because he is one of the most unique human beings that's ever walked the face of the earth. Every so often we get one of those people. That's not good or bad. Hitler was one of the most unique people that walked the face of the earth. I'm not making a comparison. A lot of people try that comparison. The similarities are there, I get it, but good and bad is a very fine line in these cases. And so what you've got is a reporter that doesn't understand how to be inquisitive. They emotionally react to everything they see. It's really kind of stupid. I don't know a better word for it. It's quite ignorant. It's quite stupid. And that's what we're really dealing with. So the information we're receiving is by people that are more interested in peddling their opinion and injecting it into the news than they are in figuring out the subject or the subject matter that they're talking about. And so that's really the issue, and that's the fake news component that we're dealing with right now, in the sense that we're really struggling to get to the truth, and it's very distorted. No one's reporting the fact that Donald Trump spent a great deal of time this week working on community banks. This is a huge economic issue for this country. And this would empower businesses to get going, to build their businesses, to hire lots of people, big jobs reports. That's getting buried by the fact that the left is peddling a story that ultimately has no substance to it, but it does serve to demean the Trump presidency for as long as they can keep it alive, and they're doing, quite frankly, a brilliant job of it.
Let me give you an example, Brian, of let's just assume that woman, the White House reporter for the Las Vegas newspaper, was correct. And Trump has exaggerated or told stories that are completely made up. And I don't agree with her. Each of the stories she named, I don't believe he made up. But let's just assume she's right. Donald Trump's supposed lies have never cost me a dime. As a matter of fact, you saw yesterday's jobs report. You see the manufacturing jobs coming back. You see consumer confidence exploding. You see the stock market going up. You see the deficit went down. Donald Trump is actually making me money while he's lying if she's claiming he's lying. But Barack Obama's lies almost put me out of business and bankrupted and ruined me. He said that if you like your insurance, you can keep it. That's a different kind of lie. I don't really care whether Trump was wiretapped or not, although I believe it. I believe the NSA wiretaps everyone. So everyone's listening to everyone's conversations. So in a way, he's right. And Obama is the president, so they must tell him. So he knew about it. That's all. I don't know if he ordered it, but he certainly knew about it. But whether it's a lie or not, Brian, that lie doesn't cost me a dime. Obamacare quadrupled my health care costs. Obama ordered IRS audits against me personally, cost me $100,000 in legal fees. His climate change obsession tripled all of our electric bills. His income tax increases almost put every businessman in America out of business, and his regulations have doubled, tripled, and quadrupled everyone's legal bills if you own a business. So you tell me, what kind of lie matters? The lie that affects me personally, or supposedly an exaggeration or a whopper by Donald Trump that has no effect on my life?
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump's lies. He's got plenty of them. Just like when he lies about terrorism, and then the Pulse nightclub gets blown up and 50 people die.
There you go. Right.
Terrorists, of course.
Right.
Let's talk about Trump's lies last weekend that he was being wiretapped. We have a story in May, June of last year where they applied for a FISA court order. This has already been printed in January 19th and 20th in the New York Times. Then they got a broad spectrum. This is not corroborated, but it's somewhat corroborated that they got a broad spectrum FISA order in October for all U.S. persons related to the investigation of campaign officials and Donald Trump. It didn't say that, but it said the investigation into Russian connections to the Trump campaign. All U.S. persons could have included Donald Trump. Then we have the holy grail of Trump's lies. It was certainly a lie that Obama wiretapped him, or in hyperbole, someone in Obama's administration wiretapped him. And then, lo and behold, Tuesday of this week, WikiLeaks comes out with a dump that says our televisions, our smartphones can be turned on and off at will, and we can be spied on. Who doesn't think that they didn't do that to Donald Trump? Oh, well, you have to have a FISA court order. Bull. You don't have to have a FISA court order. Some rogue contractor, the same kind of person who leaked this information and committed espionage in doing so, could have simply done it. And they could have simply gathered the information and then leaked it out to the press as it's been done. And they could have leaked it out unbeknownst to Comey, unbeknownst to James Clapper, unbeknownst to their superior officials, unbeknownst to Barack Obama. Maybe he did or didn't order it. Who knows? That's why we need an investigation. We should investigate everything and everybody. And whomever has been leaking classified intelligence information, there's a penalty for that. In our code, it's called the death penalty. They should be given it as a example of what happens when you use our intelligence community as a contractor or an intelligence employee of the United States federal government to leak information and commit espionage. That's what they should do. And, I'm sorry, it's tough, it's harsh. Maybe it doesn't deserve death, but it really does, because we're talking about leaking information that's risking the lives. If you'll do that for Trump, you'll do it for something else. It gives serious lacking credibility to the assets and spies we have around the world, that they're not safe. And if they go in hiding because of all of this stuff and because of the fears, and they miss informing us of a pending looming terrorist attack, Americans in the thousands could die. And that is not blowing this issue out of proportion. That is reality. And it's not something that Michael Hayden said to me, but the former CIA director I interviewed in his book tour at the Atlanta History Center for 3 hours on stage one evening in front of a crowd, and he said leaks in the intelligence community do just that. He didn't say it about this issue, and he's not so much on Donald Trump's side, but I'm taking his own words, a former CIA anti-Trump guy who says leaks costs American lives, and they certainly cost intelligence officials, good intelligence officials' lives. And that's what's at risk here, and that's what this conversation should be about.
Well, listen, can you imagine if Obama became president after a Republican president? And he did. He became president after George W. Bush. And can you imagine if all the Republican appointees were leaking all of Obama's conversations? You know what they'd say? Not only do they deserve the death penalty, not only should they all be fired, not only should they all be prosecuted, but they're all racist, and they're doing it because he's black. That's what would have happened, guaranteed. I don't even need to, that's one of those, if I have $10 million to my name, I'd put the whole $10 million up in a bet that this would all be blamed on white Republicans who hate Obama because he's black. So I find this all amazing.
Think of it this way. For the last 8 years and even till today, everything that went wrong in Obama's administration, the liberals and the left have told us ad nauseum it was George W. Bush's fault because he was a Republican. Everything that's wrong now, a month and a half into Trump's presidency, 50 days to be exact, is Trump's fault. How is that possible? It is the most insane environment I have ever experienced in my life. It is kind of funny, except that it's serious.
And Brian Crabtree, here's one more thing I want you to digest. When I screamed from the highest mountains on every conservative website and on every conservative media that the IRS had tried to destroy me under Barack Obama, and it must have been on orders from my college classmate, Barack Obama, who didn't like the fact that I was in the media saying, knew everyone at Columbia in class of 83. We were both in that class. I never saw him, never heard of him, never met him. Interviewed other students. No one ever saw him. No one ever heard of him. No one ever met him. Interviewed professors. No one ever saw him. No one ever heard of him. No one met him. And suddenly I have IRS attacks over the top that law firms are saying they've never seen anything like it in their lives. You're definitely on the president's enemies list. Not one media cared. No one talked about the use of government to destroy me or the Tea Parties or conservative groups or pro-Israel groups or Christian groups. No mention pro-Constitution groups. Can you imagine if a Republican president had used the IRS to destroy their critics? Oh, right, he did. His name was Richard Nixon, and he was driven out of office. So you're just dealing with such a surreal situation. It's unbelievable.
Obama aligned himself with what could rise to a cabal of shadow government officials, deeply ingrained, deeply experienced in how to manipulate the government to hurt people like you, to hurt people in America. Just look at what happened in Wisconsin. That wasn't Obama, but it was part of that culture where people got raided at 3 o'clock in the morning while their kids were asleep, and they were told they couldn't even talk to their attorneys, denied due process because Just in that state, they were anti-Scott Walker, and these people were donating to Scott Walker. The culture that developed under Barack Obama was one of riots, protest, destruction, and pain. It was one that was really causing a lot of people in America to suffer, but because if you were against him, you should suffer. And it's the same thing that's happening right now, projected forward. If you allowed Donald Trump to be president because you didn't stop him or you didn't speak out against him, or even worse, you supported this man, then you are deserving of suffering and pain, and the left is determined to cause you suffering and pain. And I tell conservatives this, that I'm not exaggerating that. That's what they want. They want you to feel pain for your support or lack of attempt to defeat Donald Trump. And if you're in that category, your only option is to stand up because it's a louder chorus of people and fight back and overwhelm them vocally and physically, not saying violence, but overwhelm them and push back, because if conservatives in this country or the disenfranchised Democrats that voted for Trump would stand up and fight back verbally and push back on the hysteria, they would be drowned out, irrelevant, much more quickly than they're going to be anyway.
All right, Brian Crabtree, live afternoon host on Atlanta's Biz 1190 every day. On the weekend, he's got a real estate show with his wife, Mackenzie Crabtree, on Saturdays on AM 920 The Answer in Atlanta. A great guy and a real smart guy who does a lot of research. That's why I bring him back again and again on the show. Thank you, Brian, for coming on the show. You can find him, by the way, TheBrianCrabtreeShow.com, TheBrianCrabtreeShow.com. Thanks for being with us, Brian.
Have a great night. Good to be with you.
Great weekend. God bless. Wayne Allyn, War Now. We get back your calls, 844-927-6691, which is 844-WAR Now 1. All right, Wayne Allyn, War Now. We'll take a couple calls to end the show. We've got Robert, who's been waiting patiently on line 1. Robert, you're on with War.
I'll go fast. I'm learning a lot from you. Number one, we need a list of all the minerals that have been tapped out of our state in the last 8 years. Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Harry Reid bled the gold and a lot of uranium out of here. We need the list. We need to expose that. Number two, there's a thing called medical jihad. Many terrorists and left-wing globalists that work in the medical communities have been killing Americans for years. We need an investigation on that. No doubt about it. You lay down and a Muslim's going to work on you, he's going to kill you. A lot of people have died from the terrorism that's happening in the medical community. Number three, I know somebody used to work for Reverend Moon, and they talked about that the North Koreans attack nuclear-wise would be to drop a nuclear weapon off the coast of a country and detonate it later on remotely. They need to explore that because the Moon used to own submarines and ships communities. So is the global community watching and making sure that there's no devices sitting on the sitting in the ocean floor next to places? Did they cause the earthquakes in Japan? All right.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it, Robert. Anthony on line 2. Anthony, we got about 30 seconds. Go, baby.
Wayne, well, you were talking about we can't do without the illegal aliens, but there's millions of people wanting to come in this country legally. They'll take low-end jobs because when they send money back to their country, some of the exchange rates are 40 to 1 or 60 to 1 to the dollar. That's all I had to say.
Yeah, don't be confused. You didn't think I was saying that, did you? I was saying that's what liberals argue. That's what's on the cover of a local magazine, that they're so important to the economy. Not what I was saying. I believe legals are important to the economy. Legally born Americans and legal immigrants are important to the American economy. And by the way, Anthony, not only would legal immigrants grab those jobs that illegals are taking, but also legally born Americans who are now on welfare and food stamps and 1,000 other government programs. If you took the welfare away, they'd have to mow the lawns and clean the dishes and clean the toilet bowls. They'd have no choice. You either take a job or you starve to death. It's time to end the welfare, end the illegals, and get Americans in to do American jobs. Wayne Allyn, War Now, another great week in the books. And as always, for the cops, the first responders, the military out there, we love you. We pray for you. Be safe. See you Monday. Have a great weekend.